Golf. A game played over a large area of ground using sticks with a special shape to hit a small hard ball, a golf ball, into a series of 9 or 18 holes, using as few shots as possible. For example, I play golf every weekend.
Grace. An attractive quality of movement that is smooth and done with control, a simple and beautiful quality. For example, she moves with the natural grace of a ballerina.
Helicopter.
Helicopter. An aircraft without wings that has large blades equals long flat parts on top that go round. It can fly straight up from the ground and can also stay in one position in the air. For example, a police/rescue helicopter.
Helmet. A type of hard hat that protects the head, worn, for example, by a police officer, a soldier, or a person riding a bike or motorbike or playing some sports. For example, police in riot helmets line the streets.
Hockey. A game played on a field by two teams of 11 players, with curved sticks and a small hard ball. Teams try to hit the ball into the other team's goal. For example, to play hockey. Humble. Showing you do not think that you are as important as other people. For example, be humble enough to learn from your mistakes.
Humorous.
Humorous. Funny, showing a sense of humor. For example, he gave a humorous account of their trip to Spain.
Illustration.
Illustration. A drawing or picture in a book, magazine, for decoration or to explain something. For example, 50 full-color illustrations.
Informal. Relaxed and friendly, not following strict rules of how to behave or do something. For example, an informal atmosphere. Interested.
Interested. Giving your attention to something because you enjoy finding out about it or doing it. Showing interest in something and finding it exciting. For example, he sounded genuinely interested.
Ladder.
Ladder. A piece of equipment for climbing up and down a wall, the side of a building, etc., consisting of two lengths of wood or metal that are joined together by steps or rungs. For example, to climb up/fall off a ladder.
League. A group of sports teams who all play each other to earn points and find which team is best. For example, Castleford have led the league for most of the season.
Lost. Unable to find your way, not knowing where you are. For example, we always get lost in London.
Marathon. A long-running race of about 42 kilometers, or 26 miles. For example, the London Marathon. Match. A sports event where people or teams compete against each other. For example, British English.
Matching.
Matching. Having the same color, pattern, style, etc., and therefore looking attractive together. For example, the two sisters wore matching outfits.
Medal.
Medal. A flat piece of metal, usually like a coin in shape, that is given to the winner of a competition or to somebody who has been brave, for example in war. For example, to win a gold medal in the Olympics.
Might.
Might. Used when showing that something is or was possible. For example, he might get there in time.
Needle.
Needle. A small thin piece of steel that you use for sewing, with a point at one end and a hole for the thread at the other. For example, a needle and thread.
Neutral.
Neutral. not supporting or helping either side in a disagreement, competition, etc. For example, journalists are supposed to be politically neutral.
Open. To move a door, window, lid, etc. into a position that is no longer closed, to get into this position. For example, Mr. Chen opened the car door for his wife.
Opponent.
Opponent. A person that you are playing or fighting against in a game, competition, argument, etc. For example, a political opponent.
Optimistic. Expecting good things to happen or something to be successful, showing this feeling. For example, we are now taking a more optimistic view.
Package. To put something into a box, bag, etc. to be sold or transported. For example, package something.
Park. An area of public land in a town or a city where people go to walk, play, and relax. For example, Hyde Park.
Partner.
Partner. A person that you are doing an activity with, such as dancing or playing a game. For example, a dance the tennis partner.
Pitch. An area of ground specially prepared and marked for playing a sports game. For example, a football pitch.
Player.
Player. A person who takes part in a game or sport. For example, a football, tennis, chess player.
Plot. The series of events that form the story of a novel, play, film, etc. For example, it's hard to follow the plot of the film.
Polite. Having or showing good manners and respect for the feelings of others. For example, polite to somebody.
Prejudice.
Prejudice. An unreasonable dislike of or preference for a person, group, custom, etc., especially when it is based on their race, religion, sex, etc. For example, a victim of racial prejudice.
Prize. An award that is given to a person who wins a competition, race, etc., or who does very good work. For example, she was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize.
Productive. Making goods or growing crops, especially in large quantities. For example, highly productive farming land.
Race. A competition between people, animals, vehicles, etc. to see which one is the faster or fastest. For example, a boat horse race. Racial. Happening or existing between people of different races. For example, racial hatred, prejudice, or tension or violence.
Racing.
Racing. The sport of racing horses. For example, he used to watch the racing on TV in the afternoons.
Racist. Having the belief that some races of people are better than others or having general beliefs about other people based only on their race, showing this through violent or unfair treatment of people of other races. For example, racist attitudes, remarks.
Referee. The official who controls the game in some sports. For example, he was sent off for arguing with the referee.
Refusal. An act of saying or showing that you will not do, give, or accept something. For example, the refusal of a request, an invitation, an offer.
Regular.
Regular. Following a pattern, especially with the same time or space in between each thing and the next. For example, regular breathing.
Review.
Review. To write a report of a book, play, film, product, etc. in which you give your opinion of it. For example, please rate and review your purchase on our website.
Round. In a circle. For example, the first woman to sail round the world. Round. In a circle. For example, the first woman to sail round the world.
Rude. Having or showing a lack of respect for other people and their feelings. For example, a rude comment, a remark.
Rugby.
Rugby. A game played by two teams of 13 or 15 players, using an oval ball which may be kicked or carried. Teams try to put the ball over the other team's line. For example, to play a game of rugby.
Rule. To control and have authority over a country, a group of people, etc. For example, rule something.
Runner.
Runner. A person or an animal that runs, especially one taking part in a race. For example, a long-distance/cross-country/marathon runner.
Running.
Running. The action or sport of running. For example, to go running.
Score. The number of points, goals, etc. scored by each player or team in a game or competition. For example, a high-low score. Score. The number of points, goals, etc. scored by each player or team in a game or competition. For example, a high-low score.
Silly.
Silly. Showing a lack of thought, understanding, or judgment. For example, a silly idea/question/name. Sincere. Showing what you really think or feel. For example, a sincere apology.
Ski. One of a pair of long narrow pieces of wood, metal or plastic that you attach to boots so that you can move smoothly over snow. For example, a pair of skis.
Soccer.
Soccer. A game played by two teams of 11 players, using a round ball which players kick up and down the playing field. Teams try to kick the ball into the other team's goal. For example, I played soccer when I was younger.
Spectator. A person who is watching an event, especially a sports event. For example, the new football stadium will hold 75,000 spectators.
Speculate. To form an opinion about something without knowing all the details or facts. For example, speculate about on as to something.
Speculation. The act of forming opinions about what has happened or what might happen without knowing all the facts. For example, his private life is the subject of much speculation.
Sport. Activity that you do for pleasure and that needs physical effort or skill, usually done in a special area and according to fixed rules. For example, there are excellent facilities for sport and recreation.
Sporting.
Sporting. Connected with sports. For example, a major sporting event.